Do you think that rich people are selfish individuals who only care about accumulating wealth? The truth is often the opposite. The most successful people are not those who earn the most, but those who give the most. It's not that they became wealthy first, it is their generosity that made them wealthy. Let's explore something that very few dare to speak. To truly become wealthy, you must learn to give wildly. Not to be praised, not to receive something in return, but to live a life of freedom, both financially and spiritually. If you are making money but still feel empty, keep watching this video because what you may be lacking isn't in your wallet, but in your heart. Together, we will uncover the 5 secrets hidden behind true wealth and success. Principle 1. Have a written plan, a budget. Wealth and financial freedom never come by chance. You can't simply wake up one day and find yourself a millionaire. True financial success must be designed, constructed, and, most importantly, laid out in a detailed plan. A budget isn't a cage that traps you. It's the compass that guides you toward freedom. By writing down your financial plan, you give direction to every dollar you earn, rather than scrambling at the end of the month wondering, where did all my money go? I'm reminded of a verse I cherish. Which of you, intending to build a tower, does not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if you have enough to complete it? This lesson teaches us that you cannot build your future on uncertainty. Nobody accidentally becomes wealthy or accidentally pays off their debts. Every success begins with a written plan. I once counseled Jennifer, a single mother in Texas who lived in constant worry because she never knew where her money was disappearing each month. After 3 months of diligently recording her income and expenses, she eliminated over $600 of unnecessary spending and built her first emergency fund. She didn't earn an extra dollar, but by managing her money wisely, she gained peace of mind. The wealthy also live by budgets. John D. Rockefeller meticulously tracked every penny when he was a young accountant, and Warren Buffett remained strict about his expenses, famously saying, "If you can't save even a dollar, making millions doesn't matter." They don't budget because they lack money. They budget because they respect money and understand the impact of each financial decision. A budget is like tracking your meals on a diet. You don't log calories to punish yourself, but to know what to eat and what to avoid. In finance, if you don't measure it, you can't improve it. Consider Apple. Before launching any product, they plan every step, from production to marketing to logistics, calculating each cost with care instead of guessing. You should apply the same rigor to your personal finances. If you've never made a budget, today is the perfect day to start. Grab a notebook or open a notes app, then record your monthly income, list every expense, identify areas where money leaks away, decide how much you want to save, and set your long-term financial goals. It won't be perfect at first, but the more you practice, the more control you'll regain over your finances. Without a budget, you're likely to get lost on your financial journey. Financial victory is never accidental. To win, you need a map, and a budget is that map. In the next section, we'll explore the second principle, building your first emergency fund, because life rarely goes exactly as planned, and you'll need shelter when the storm comes. Principle 2. Pay off debt. When you finally set a clear budget, it feels like a weight lifts, and yet an invisible chain still holds you back. Debt is that hole in the bottom of your bucket. No matter how much you pour in, it all seeps away, leaving you watching helplessly as your hard-earned money disappears. You dream of financial freedom, but every dream is pulled under by the heavy anchor of debt. Imagine earning $5,000 a month but handing over nearly $2,000 just to service credit cards, car loans, or student loans. What's left for your future? You're not working for yourself, you're enslaved to lenders. Every delay in repayment is another shovel of earth thrown on your own grave. Borrowing has become normalized. A car loan here, a revolving credit balance there, a tuition loan to invest in your future. Yet these normal debts tighten the grip of anxiety and steal your freedom. To break free, you must make a courageous choice to say goodbye to debt. Begin by writing down every single obligation, from the smallest balance to the largest. Don't get bogged down by interest rates just yet. The goal is to gain momentum. This is the snowball strategy. Conquer your smallest debt first, celebrate that victory, and let it fuel you to tackle the next. Each time you erase a balance, you win a small battle, and your confidence soars. Look at Dave Ramsey. He was a self-made millionaire at 26, only to crash into bankruptcy a year later under the weight of debt. He didn't give up. He rebuilt from scratch on the rock-solid foundation of a debt-free life. Today, his financial education empire lights the path for millions. Or consider Sarah Blakely, the founder of Spanx, who bankrolled her billion-dollar dream on $5,000 she saved while selling fax machines, without borrowing a cent. She proves that true freedom comes not from other people's money, but from mastering your own. Eradicating debt isn't just a financial strategy, it's a profound emotional release. Picture sleeping through the night without the dread of overdue notices or collection calls. Imagine waking to an account balance that belongs wholly to you. Every penny yours to save, invest, or give away without a banker's blessing. The roadmap is simple yet powerful. List your debts, commit to the snowball approach, slash unnecessary spending, and, if needed, find extra income streams. Sell the things you don't truly need to accelerate your progress. Each sacrifice, each payment, brings you one step closer to unshackled freedom. Think of the moment you glance at your bank balance and realize, this is mine. No hidden creditors, no phantom liabilities, just pure, unencumbered ownership. Every dollar you earn now builds your dream, not someone else's profit. This journey demands grit, but consider the prize, the relief that floods your heart when debt ceases to be your master. Let this be your battle cry. I choose freedom. I choose ownership. I choose to dig my way out of that hole and reclaim my life. Principle 3. Live below your means. After escaping debt, a whole new world unfolded. But then came the realization. To maintain financial freedom, a daily shift in spending habits was essential. Paying off debt was a significant victory, but reverting to old spending patterns would inevitably lead back to square one. That's when the third principle was understood, a principle that sounds straightforward, yet proves the most challenging to implement. Live below your means. The Bible once wisely stated, "The prudent see danger and take refuge, but the simple keep going and pay the penalty." In modern terms, if every dollar earned is spent, whether it's $3,000 or $30,000 a month, one is acting unwisely. This truth might be unsettling. However, the aim here isn't to sugarcoat reality, but to present it plainly, to help you identify the fundamental cause of the financial struggles you are encountering. The problem isn't the economy. It's not the government. It's not that your salary is too low. The reason you haven't gotten ahead isn't because of the outside world. It's because of how you live. We can't control gas prices, inflation, or the stock market. But we can control our credit cards, our shopping decisions, and our lifestyle choices. Previously, many would rationalize their spending. Hard work deserves a reward. Living like others is necessary to keep up. But the more they lived that way, the deeper they sank. Empty accounts led to burdened minds. True relief only came with a change in spending habits, cutting back, saving, and establishing clear boundaries for their lifestyle. Living below your means isn't about living in scarcity. It's about living strategically. It's about knowing how to delay gratification for long-term stability. Take Warren Buffett, for example. one of the greatest investors in the world. Even though he has a fortune worth hundreds of billions of dollars, he still lives in the house he bought in 1958, eats breakfast at McDonald's, and doesn't chase after a lavish lifestyle. Not because he can't afford it, but because he understands the value of spending less than he earns. And because of that, he remains focused on what truly matters. Or consider Chris Hogan, a financial expert and author of Everyday Millionaires. He interviewed thousands of ordinary American millionaires, and the common denominator wasn't luck or massive incomes. It was that they consistently lived below their means for decades. They didn't flaunt wealth. They didn't chase designer brands. They invested, not spent.
And perhaps you are thinking, my income isn't high enough to save. However, the core issue isn't the amount earned, but rather spending habits. Without learning to live frugally on a lower income, increased earnings will simply lead to increased spending. Lifestyle tends to expand in proportion to income unless it is consciously managed. And if you don't like the reality of your current paycheck, change it. Don't like working at McDonald's? Learn new skills. Apply for a different job. Can't stand your boss? Start taking action to find a job that's a better fit. You're not a tree. You can move. Don't sit in one place and feel sorry for yourself, only to scroll through TikTok at night to forget your financial worries. Previously, many were trapped in the mindset, this is just how life is. I can't change it. But that's a sweet lie, and they believed it for too long. Only when they stood up, took action, learned, and started making small changes did their lives truly turn around. Because if you don't change, if you keep living recklessly with money flowing in and out, sooner or later you'll become like a stagnant pond with no life, no flow. It may sound harsh, but the truth is, no one is stopping you from changing except yourself. Look at your income today and ask yourself, am I spending all of it? Am I leaving anything for my future? If the answer is no, then today is the time to start changing. Begin by budgeting. Set limits for each spending category. Get into the habit of saying no to things you want but don't actually need. Don't let social pressure push you to spend money you haven't earned just to impress people you don't even know. You can start small, like bringing lunch to work instead of eating out, or saying no to an impulsive online shopping spree. Every small action today is a brick building a strong financial foundation for tomorrow. Many have done it, and you can absolutely do it too. In the next part, we will explore an extremely important factor that will help you stand firm through any financial storm. Something simple yet often overlooked, an emergency fund. Don't miss this, as it could be what helps you avoid falling back into debt once again.
Principle 4. Save and invest money. After learning to live below one's means, something miraculous began to happen. The feeling of lack transformed into a sense of abundance. This abundance didn't arise from a doubled income, but from understanding how to retain what was previously unknowingly slipping away. And it was from that surplus that a new chapter in the journey to financial freedom unfolded. Some might immediately react, what money is left to invest? But let this be clear. If there are no funds for investment, the issue isn't the market, nor is it the absence of the right opportunity. The issue is that genuine saving hasn't yet occurred. This isn't a criticism, but rather a wake-up call, akin to a 5 a.m. alarm, uncomfortable yet necessary. Previously, wealth was often perceived as a game for the exceptionally astute, financial geniuses who instinctively knew when to buy low, sell high. However, the reality is far simpler than imagined. Wealth doesn't come from miraculous leaps. It comes from small, repeated actions every day, saving a little at a time, setting aside a portion to invest, maintaining a gap between what you earn and what you spend. The wealthy, they save, and they save consistently, 100% of the time. They don't wait until they have extra to save. They save first, then spend what's left. Take, for example, Mark Cuban, the famous American billionaire and owner of the Dallas Mavericks. When he was younger, he lived in a cramped apartment with 5 friends, eating instant noodles almost every day. Why? Because he wanted to save as much as possible to invest in bigger opportunities. And in the end, it was that persistence in accumulating wealth that paved the way for him to become one of the most successful investors in America. Or look at Barbara Corcoran, founder of the Corcoran Group and a judge on the TV show Shark Tank. She started with $1,000 borrowed and saved bit by bit to build her real estate empire. She wasn't a financial genius, but she knew that financial discipline was the launchpad for any dream. Saving isn't just about putting money in a jar and locking it away. It's a commitment to your future self. And once you have a stable amount saved, no matter how small, you're ready to enter the playing field of wealth builders, investing. You don't need to be an expert to start. Many people delay investing simply because they fear making mistakes. But remember this, a modest investment is 1,000 times better than doing nothing at all. Sitting still in fear of making a mistake only lets time slip away and your money lose value.
Many begin with straightforward steps: a 401k retirement account, index funds like the S&P 500, a few shares of companies they understand well, such as Apple or Costco. And they persist, month after month, regardless of market fluctuations. Investing isn't about rapid wealth accumulation, it's about consistent, steady growth. However, it's crucial to note that investing is truly effective only when financial margin exists, the gap between income and expenditure. If one earns $5,000 a month and spends $5,000, no matter how profound their financial knowledge, there are still no funds available for investment. The essential lesson is learning how to create margin, the breathing room for one's finances. It's the space that alleviates the pressure of bills, interest rates, and the anxiety of where will the next funds come from. You can create margin by increasing your income, learning new skills, taking on side projects, or by reducing your spending, cutting out things that don't truly add value. Ideally, you should do both. A friend of mine, an elementary school teacher, did just that. She started writing a blog to share teaching materials, selling them on platforms like Teachers Pay Teachers. Her income from the blog gradually increased, and she didn't spend it recklessly. She saved, invested in index funds, and within 6 years, she had a 6-figure savings, enough to confidently quit her job and open her own education center. There are no miracles, just perseverance. So, if today you feel you don't have enough to invest, start by saving. If you've saved, take the next step and invest. And if you've already invested, continue to create financial space so the seeds you plant have room to grow and thrive. You don't have to be perfect to start. You just need to start getting better over time. Principle 5. Be generous and give with purpose. As a sense of abundance began to emerge through consistent saving and investing, many discovered that money offered more than mere security. It unlocked a distinct feeling, a profound joy, surpassing the excitement of spending or accumulating, the joy of giving. And not the type of giving motivated by recognition or the expectation of reciprocation. Rather, giving in a surprising, generous, and wholly selfless manner, in the truest sense of the phrase. Many vividly recall the first instance of assisting a struggling stranger with no expectation of return. It wasn't a substantial sum, just a few $100s. Yet, in that moment, a sense of renewal arose, freedom, fulfillment, and purpose. However, a clear understanding also emerged. Living generously is challenging when monthly bills are a struggle. When resources are scarce, when debt looms, when self-care is a challenge, the concept of aiding others becomes a distant aspiration. Therefore, the advice isn't to engage in charity with an empty wallet. Instead, cultivate generosity as a financial goal, an integral part of your journey, without waiting until having a lot to commence. Someone once posed the question, why should one give when still trying to establish oneself? The answer lies in the fact that giving extends beyond assisting others.
It's about reconnecting with one's fundamental values. Many recall the story of Chuck Feeney, an American billionaire renowned not for his accumulated wealth, but for the astonishing act of giving away nearly all of it before his passing. He lived modestly. No luxury vehicles, no extravagant mansions, no need for ostentation. Yet, he quietly donated over $8 billion to education, healthcare, and humanitarian causes globally. He once stated, "I get more joy out of giving money away than I do making it." Or take Tony Robbins, the world-renowned author and speaker. In his youth, he lived in poverty and often went hungry. One Thanksgiving, a stranger gave his family a meal, a moment Tony would never forget. From that day forward, he made a vow. If he ever had the chance, he'd give that same gift to millions of others. And he kept his word. Through Feeding America, Tony Robbins has helped provide hundreds of millions of meals to people in need. These people weren't just successful, they were inspiring. Not because of how much they owned, but because they understood the true value of money lies and where it's planted. However, there's no expectation to begin with billions. The hope is simply to start with an open heart and a tangible act. Perhaps a small holiday tip for a delivery driver, a meal for someone experiencing homelessness, a modest scholarship for a student facing hardship, or simply the right words of encouragement for someone barely holding on. Generosity isn't always monetary. Sometimes it manifests as your time, your guidance, your presence, your kindness in a world that seems to grow colder each day. But let's be clear, generosity shouldn't remain theoretical. Too many individuals engage in philosophical discussions about compassion and the meaning of life over coffee, yet never translate those ideas into action. They evoke the image of those high on ideals, dreaming of a better world, but unwilling to take a single step to build it. And the truth is, regrettably, the world doesn't change through beautiful thoughts alone. It changes through individuals who dare to do good, even in the minor ways. There was a time when many were self-centered, clinging to every dollar out of fear of loss. But it was generosity the kind that emanates from the soul, that brought about transformation. It turned them from individuals solely focused on themselves into those who live for others. And there has never been a single regret. So, we've just explored 5 secrets to becoming rich and successful. The most crucial part is how you'll apply these secrets to your own life. Start with the smallest steps today and be persistent on this journey. Success isn't a destination, but a continuous process. Thank you for joining us, and don't forget to share your positive changes.